The Lantern Keeper. There was once a village stitched to the edge of the world. It wasn't on any map, unless you counted the ones drawn in dreams or in the margins of long-forgotten books. A crooked little place where the houses leaned into the wind and the sea always whispered secrets, though most people had learned not to listen. At the far end of the village, just where the earth began to wonder if it ought to become sea instead, there lived the Lantern Keeper. They were not old, not really, but their eyes had seen things that made time wrap itself around them like ivy. Their job, the kind passed down in silence, like a burden or a birthright, was to light the lanterns along the shoreline each night so that lost things could find their way home. The Lantern Keeper wasn't alone, not once. There had been another, someone who wore laughter like a scarf and always knew when the wind would turn. They moved through the world together, like ink and paper, one making sense of the other. They shared everything: a crooked house with uneven floors, the secrets of flames, and the quiet language that exists only between people who have chosen each other again and again. But then came the storm. It wasn't the kind that rattled windows or tore up boats. It was worse, quiet and invisible. The kind that slips in when you're looking the other way. And when it passed, the world remained mostly as it had been. The sea still sighed, the stars still blinked, but the other was gone, just gone. And the Lantern Keeper, now alone, did what people do when the world stops making sense. They kept doing what they knew. They lit the lanterns. They walked the wind-carved path. They waited. Nights passed, and then weeks, and then that strange, rubbery sort of time that follows grief, where days lose their names and everything tastes like ash. One evening, as twilight curled itself around the sky like a cat, a stranger came to the village. The sort of stranger who doesn't knock, who seems to know the way without being told. His boots were muddy, and his coat smelled of old rain, and he carried a bag full of silence. He sat beside the Lantern Keeper on the hill, where the biggest lantern stood, the one that burned brighter than memory and almost as fierce as love. He didn't say hello. People like him rarely do. They sat together in silence for a long time. The kind of silence that isn't empty but thick, like a pause in a story before something important happens. Then, without turning his head, the stranger spoke. "You are wrong, you know." The Lantern Keeper turned his head. If he was able to raise one eyebrow, he would have. "You think they're gone?" The Lantern Keeper didn't answer. Not because it wasn't true, but because It was too true to hold gently. The stranger reached into his coat and pulled out a match, an old one, made of bone or driftwood or something that remembered being alive. He struck it, and the flame danced a peculiar shade of gold. They're not gone, just elsewhere. The keeper frowned. Elsewhere? Yes, the stranger cupped the flame with both hands. There are places people go when stories end, and other places they go when stories change. Your person, they've simply walked into a different part of the tale, one you can't see from this page. The flame flickered, casting long shadows across the lantern's glass. The keeper's voice was barely more than a breath. But I can't follow. I can't talk to them. I don't even know if they exist. The stranger gave a small hum, somewhere between a laugh and a sigh. Hmm. They exist in you. That's where they planted the last part of themselves, in the spaces you now ache. He glanced sideways. The pain you feel, it's not proof they're gone. It's proof they were real. The keeper closed their eyes. I don't want to forget. The stranger nodded. Then don't. Forgetting isn't the point. Carry them. But carry them like firewood, something that warms you, not like stones in your pocket, dragging you into the sea. A pause. The wind softened. Grief, the stranger whispered, is just like love that doesn't know where to go. So it waits. It builds lanterns. It plants gardens. It writes songs in the wind. And that's all right. Let it stay a while. Just don't forget to leave beside it. The match burned out, and the smoke curled upwards like a final word. The stranger stood. Light the lanterns. Tell the stories. That's how you keep the door open. To what? The keeper asked. The stranger smiled, eyes crinkling like old paper. To the part of the story they're still in. And with that, he was gone. Whether he walked into the mist or was never really there at all, the keeper never knew. But the words, those stayed. People say, if you go to the village now, not the one on the map, the other one, you might see a figure walking the shoreline, lantern in hand, humming the ghost of a song. And sometimes, just sometimes, you might catch another figure walking beside them, made of light and salt and memory, smiling in a way that only the dead who are still loved know how to smile. They say the keeper never stopped grieving. They just learned how to make it beautiful.